Hey guys, welcome to Monday's Threads. My name is Monday and I am the founder of the Love It, Sew It, Wear It movement, where I encourage you to sew and wear more of the things that you love. On today's tutorial, we will be creating a red dress inspired by Pink Lucy. Now, I think she's a designer and owns like a clothing boutique where she sells her designs. And I loved this red dress. I loved it so much, I decided to recreate one for myself, and in this video I show you how I did that. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. So let's get right into it. For this project, you will need tape measure to measure out yourself. You will need your pins. You will need scissors or rotary cutter. You will need your fabric weights. You will definitely need fabric. I am using a neoprene scuba knit. It's almost like a four-way stretch double knit. So that's what I'll be using. And you will definitely need the McCalls M6886 pattern. I will be using view A. We will be cutting about midway of your thigh and adding a flounce at the bottom. So these are the staples that you need. I just want to mention that I highly suggest that you add the McCalls 6886 pattern to your collection. And I would add that you have several of these, because this looks like a basic dress, a basic bodycon dress, but I can guarantee you can make like 1,000 styles. And I've seen over okay, maybe not 1,000, but several styles that are made out of this dress. So like you see, we're going to be using this as a base but adding our own touch. I will also be adding, I think I'll be doing about elbow length or 3/4 sleeve. So the sleeves, that's up to you to decide how far you want your sleeves to go. I would also suggest, like I said, a double knit fabric. I'm using a neoprene because I love the body of scuba or neoprene. It just gives this full body effect. So you can use that, but you're not limited to that. You can use a ponte knit, any double knit fabric. So that's what we will be using. So let's go ahead and get cutting. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and prep our pattern pieces. So for the pattern pieces, you should have 4 pattern pieces. That's 4 pieces from the McCalls M6886 pattern. So you should have a neckband, okay? You should have your sleeve pattern. You should have your front bodice. And you should have the back bodice. For the front and back, make sure that you are cutting only to the mid-length of your thigh. So this pattern has, I guess, 2 spots where you can cut. So we will be cutting about halfway before the knee length, okay? So go ahead and place your patterns on the fabric and you can go ahead and start cutting those out. Okay, so next up is cutting out our flounce. And if you have seen my previous videos where we have to use like a flounce design or a peplum, I always recommend By Hand London website, and I will just show you. This is me on my phone looking up my measurements. So here is a circle skirt calculator. I will select inches because that's what I will be working in. I will select the full skirt because I want my flounce to be in form of a full skirt, and I will add as my waist measurement, we are going to measure out the so the midway of your thigh. Measure what that measurement is. So measure that out, and whatever measurement you get, that's what you're going to place as your waist measurement. Okay, so I have it as 34, and you can go ahead and click, do the math, and what it does is it calculates what the radius is, and it will calculate what your fabric length is. You decide how long you want your flounce to be. Okay, so another added thing that it does is it shows you how you can cut out your fabric. So you're gonna have two pieces, and this is your fold. This is where you measure out your radius and cut out, and then this is how long you want your flounce to be. And then it just gives you a few directions there, and then that's pretty much it. So go ahead and do that, measure out. Oh, let's see if you can see that. Yeah, so measure out all the necessary measurements that you need, and then go ahead and use your app to figure out how you need to cut your flounce out. Okay guys, so once you are done cutting all your pieces, you should have a front and a back body piece. You should have two of your flounce, and you should have two pieces, but this is just going to be one continuous piece, so you should have two pieces of that. You should have your collar, and you should have your two sleeves. So that is pretty much the dress and all the pieces that you need. Okay guys, so once you're done and you have all the pattern pieces that you need, go ahead and pin those pieces together, ready for sewing. So I pinned my front and back flounce, pinned those together. Pin and go ahead and sew your sleeves before you attach them. Pin your front and back dress. Now I did make a boo-boo. So I actually have like a center fold seam for the back. That is not included in the pattern. So I just went ahead of myself and cut that. But if you want to place a zipper, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to leave the zipper out. So this was just a mistake on my part. So don't have a center seam, just have that seamless for the front and the back, and then go ahead and pin that. Okay, so once you're done your pinning, you can go ahead and start sewing. Okay, so once you've sewn your pieces together, this is what they should be looking like. So I went ahead and hemmed my sleeves. If you have a serger, you can go ahead and serge those ends up. I need to cut that off. And you can also, I noticed that this kind of folds like that because of the type of fabric that I'm using. So you can go ahead and lightly like press that down so that it lays flat. So that's the sleeves. Then my bodice, or body. This is the body of the dress, and this is how it should be looking like. Like I mentioned earlier on, I had a back center seam, which is not supposed to be there. But if you followed the tutorial and did the exact same thing as me, no problem. Just sew that, and you can press it down. Also, don't be too hard on yourself about the sizing. You can definitely take this in if the dress isn't fitting the way you want it. This is knit fabric and it stretches and is very forgiving. So you can go ahead and take it in. I did take mine in a few inches just so I get that nice bodycon look. And I also sewed up my flounce. So now we're going to be attaching all these pieces together. So once you're done attaching your flounce part, you can go ahead and sew around that, and then once we're done that, we will come back and attach the sleeves and the collar. Once you've sewn your flounce to your body, okay, this is what it should be looking like. You can go ahead and try on your dress and see how it is fitting. We will now go ahead and attach the sleeve to the body. So for your sleeve, go ahead and baste stitch around your sleeve and do this at the highest setting. I did mine at 5, stitch length 5, and you want to just slightly gather that stitch, and we're doing this so that we can get a proper fit into the armhole. I find that with most patterns, the sleeve is usually bigger than the armhole. Very few patterns actually have like the right size. And so what this does is just help us ease the sleeve in and get the right fitting. So gather that, and I think that should be good. And then we are going to attach this sleeve to the bodice, and I start at one seam to another, right sides together. And just pin that down. And I quickly just have a quick feel to whether this is going to fit, and I think I could release some of that, gather a bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to pin that top part. Okay. And then just pin it all around. That's what your armhole should be looking like. So you can go ahead and do that for the other side and go ahead and sew that down. So I already did the other side as well. So just sew that down. Okay guys, we are coming to the end of sewing up our dress. So this is what your dress should kind of be looking like. Okay, and this is the bottom part. So the last thing that we have to do is attach the collar. So I went ahead and sewed up my neck, I guess it's neck binding or my collar attachment. So I sewed it up there, and I went ahead and serged around. Now if you don't have a serger, you can go ahead and use pinking shears just to give it a nice clean finish. And we will be attaching that to our collar over here. So we're attaching these center points. And I'm doing that because I have a center seam in the back. If you don't have a center seam, you can just join it or connect it at one of your shoulder seams. Not a big problem. If you want it in the center too, you can do that. Okay, so once we finish pinning that, go ahead and sew around the area that you've pinned using a zigzag stitch. Once you do that, fold your collar in. Actually, it's going to be facing downwards this way. Actually, it can be. Fold your collar in, and depending on how much you want as a neck binding, like you could go halfway or you could go smaller. The next thing will be to sew around your neck binding using a twin needle. Now we're doing a zigzag stitch under here because remember there's no zipper, and so we still need a fair amount of stretch for you to put your head in. And we will be using a twin needle again, just so we can have that amount of stretch around around that area. Now, depending on the fabric that you have, neoprene is it has a, I would say it has some body, so everything seems really thick. But if you were using like a jersey knit, actually let me not say jersey knit, a ponte knit for this, it should lay down nicely. It should lay down nicely. But because of the type of fabric this is, mine is going to look kind of bulky, so I don't want too much of it showing. So anyways, let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how I finished that off. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over to my iron and lightly press this down. Okay, just so I can release some of the bulk. And I'll actually go ahead and just trim off the excess fabric over here, because like I said, this type of fabric is a bit bulky, so I want to lessen up the bulk. So you can go ahead and do that, and then we'll move over to the iron, lightly press down our collar, and then go ahead and sew it down with the twin needle. Okay guys, so the dress is done. You should have sewn on your collar, done a zigzag stitch at the bottom, cut off the excess, and then top stitch with a twin needle. Now I noticed that I have a bit, for me this is a bit of excess for the collar, so if you like, you can go ahead and just trim that down. I already serged this, but that shouldn't be a problem because this type of material, it doesn't fray. So I can go ahead and just cut it and it will still have a clean finish. But this is what your collar should be looking like. Okay guys, so that is the end of the tutorial, and I hope it was easy enough for you to sew along to. Like I said, McCalls M6886 pattern is a very, it looks like a very simple style, but there's so much that you can make out of it, and I challenge you to create or to have various creations from that single pattern. Okay, so at the end of this tutorial, your dress should be looking like this. And I'm excited to see everything that you make. Please tag me at Mondays_threads on Instagram. You can follow me on my Facebook page, Mondays Threads, and hashtag love it sew it wear it on Instagram as well, so that I can see and just celebrate and be excited with what you make. Okay, again, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and I will see you in the next video.